So in this video, a quick summary of what I'm going to talk about is a possible explanation for why lemon tech with mushrooms works quite well, and how it could be applied with other entheogens and plants to increase self-sufficiency and using lower doses for the same experience. So in the past, I've already shared my experiences with combining cappy with cacti, but recently I fell into a new paper that provides a possible explanation for the lemon tech with mushrooms and the possible mechanism that actually takes place, rather than being the traditional idea that it pre-digests the Psilocybin. The paper goes into a bit more details on the actual enzymes that uptake the molecules. So online, the somewhat accepted reason that the lemon tech works is that the psilocybin is dephosphorylated to Psilocin just through the acidic properties of the citric acid in the lemon. And to some extent that may be true, but I found a paper from the 70s that shows that it requires heating to actually perform the dephosphorylate of the compound. So in the paper they heat it to around 70 Celsius, and once it's converted they basify it because it's unstable or decomposes fast in the other alkaloid state. So in our stomachs, I think the main thing that we attributed to the dephosphorylate is that the hydrochloric acid in our stomachs, which is converted, but we also have enzymes that perform that as well. So I think in chemistry, many reactions require heat to convert and perform certain chemical reactions. So as far as the psilocybin and psilocin, that part of the explanation already seems like fairly put down, but it could be true to some extent. I'm not going to say it doesn't happen, since I don't have a strong chemistry understanding. But from my understanding, you would require heating, and most people don't make the tea lemon tech with heating as a tea. But I have seen that done in the past. But regardless, in this paper, it's called synergistic effects of 5-HT2A and TRP agonism. So basically you're just going to activate those two receptors in your body so that when you upregulate both of them, they both work together to increase the effects of each other. In the paper, it shares a few that activate the TRP receptor, and the main thing that it attributes to the increase of psilocybin and other compounds that use the same receptor is citric acid. The acidic conditions in the stomach, it upregulates and is an agonist of the TRPV1. So in the lemon tech, usually you use about a tablespoon or so of lemon juice, and you could roughly equate that to around 1.5 grams. And again, that's just a rough estimate. This 1.5 gram that I mentioned specifically is from another paper where they use mice and rats to test the receptor activation, and that's the dosage that they used. They used it obviously in a kilogram measurement, but for the average man, it would be around 1.5 grams. Could probably reduce it down to a bit, like 1.2 or something. But that's mainly the amount of citric acid required for the properties of upregulating this enzyme, this receptor. And I found that very interesting, since in the past I've also seen other agonists for this receptor mentioned in literature. In the trout notes on different plants used in ayahuasca, there's a mention there of capsaicin species, but they contradict each other. One of them, it just mentions the plant in general, but that would imply that it's a additive to the brew, while the other specifically mentions capsaicin Chinesis and a shaman's wife. They give it to remove the person from a red cappy intoxication. So maybe with an MAOI it inhibits the effects, but it would be an agonist for this receptor. So why would this paper be of any interest to, let's say, mescaline or other plants? With mescaline in specific, the main receptor that is utilized is the 2A, whereas with LSD and DMT, it's the 1A and 3A that are the main receptors. And there's the paper that I'm referencing is connected to a patent, so there may be a small amount of I guess financial interest, so you may or may not want to believe this, but it does make sense in general. But in the paper they specifically mention Psilocybin a lot, and the benefits of adding these agonists like citric acid or piperine from black pepper, cumin, and a list of a few others. And the main benefit, even if there isn't a higher psychedelic effect, just the benefits of anti-inflammatory and overall well-being of your mental health are big attributes that are positive and worthwhile to do for this combination when you're taking your sacrament. With cacti, assuming you don't have a self-sufficient supply, you may be limited in how much you're able to take. So if, let's say, just a foot is too weak a dose and I don't have access to anymore, I could just take a small amount and have a weaker experience, or I could just plant it and wait a few months. But an alternative to that would be increasing the effects with these proposed agonists. This would be a safer alternative to mixing cappy with or MAOI like I did in the past, and there's no major counter effect besides using capsaicin, which may cause a bad experience, since it may be unfortunate to have a burning mouth sensation for the initial duration of the trip. But this is actually in practice already with peyote ceremonies. I've read that some peyote ceremonies are done in sweat lounges. And another way another agonist for the 5-HT2A receptor is heat. When you're in conditions above around 43, 42 Celsius, you endogenously upregulate this receptor, and that would be a way to increase the effects, compounding and acting in a synergetic manner. While researching this, I started thinking about how some people reported that there's a faster onset of the experience, and I wouldn't say it's stronger, but there may be some validity to that claim. The best way to test this would be to actually increase the amount of citric acid that you have in your citrate dose. It is entirely possible that the citric acid in itself is enough to cause the pH of your body to drop a bit, but then that would be the case for all these salts that we have seen for salting mescaline or any other alkaloid. So just to, I guess, test this would be taking a pre-dose, or even during or right after your experience or your dosing, you would take a gram or a gram and a half of citric acid and see if it increases the intensity or has a different effect feeling, I guess, to the experience. And again, this would be very useful as a self-sufficient practice with, say, peyote. Instead of needing to consume around 8 heads, rather than just consuming 8 heads, you could consume, say, 4 with citric acid or another form of highly acidic plant. You can also use black peppers, capsaicin, sweat lounge, and a few other agonists to this receptor. And in theory, you should have a stronger experience using a lower amount of material. The paper specifically mentions the mental health benefits, so it would be the antidepressant attributes that you get from these doses, but I don't see how it would limit the actual psychoactive experience as well. Normally, I wanted to test this myself before sharing this potential practice, but in the end, it's not, I'd say, dangerous at all, and pretty much anyone can test it themselves if they were wanting to. An interesting thing, like I mentioned, is the notation with the ayahuasca brew that Trout has in his reference. I was originally planning to try capsaicin as a trip killer due to that reference, but it may actually just increase the experience, maybe a shorter duration, but it may increase the experience itself. And yeah, this is just another toolbox for personal growers that still are growing their collection size and aren't self-sufficient yet. It will help a lot with sustainability and can even be used in practice by church members if they don't have access to enough peyote for their sacrament.